To the other developing story, in fact, breaking news now. We saw the one raid on the home of Shadrach Sabir. Now, law enforcement officers are seizing the property of a businessman linked to a syndicate accused of looting at the Tembisa Hospital. These are some of the cars, that are owned by this person. Newzroom Afrika's Mnisi is there, joins us live for more. Linda, you've just arrived on the scene. Good afternoon to you. This is fairly dramatic.
Absolutely, Stephen, and you can see just on your way leading up to the street of this particular three-story house, very luxurious house, Stephen. You're seeing right now on your screen the three luxury vehicles, the Lamborghinis, that have now been seized by the SIU. They currently have loaded them in. One of them, I don't know if you can see from inside, Stephen, is an SUV. The first one that's actually loaded from inside is an SUV, and then of course you have the two other Lamborghinis that have since been seized, along with a number of other items that the SIU seized. This also includes a bit of pricey art. We understand at this point they've now seized all of these, properties from Hangwani Maumela's property here in Sandton, Johannesburg. It's part of the SIU's proceedings this afternoon, Stephen. The raid at his luxury home in Sandton, which is still underway. Quite a number of items, smaller items, being taken. You'd recall that last week the SIU, detailing a report in which at least over 2 billion rands was plundered from the Tembisa Hospital. And they detailed how, Maumela in his syndicate, which they refer to as the Maumela syndicate, they reviewed about 1,728 bundles worth of over 800 million rands, really, related to this particular syndicate, uncovering significant, and what they say essentially is significant irregularities from, of course, the procurement of those services. They also said they were able to trace about 41 suppliers to the service providers linked to Maumela. Three of those companies, you'd recall, they said are companies that were awarded contracts that were valued at over 13 million rand, Stephen. And in this syndicate, those companies were linked to now attempted murder accused Vusumuzi Kat Matlala. So at this particular moment, Stephen, you're seeing those particular proceedings. I don't know if my colleague Kevin will be able to just come a bit closer to get a sense of what is happening inside this three-story building. Of course, it is an operation that is still underway. And of course, the authorities, many of them are still inside, Stephen, trying to get whatever it is that they are able to get from this particular property. It is a luxurious property, Stephen, a three-story mansion here in Sandton, where they've come to, of course, seize these particular properties. But you'd also recall that not so long ago, in fact, there was another, court order. The SIU, in fact, the asset forfeiture unit, rather, also being basically obtaining an order to seize Maumela's properties and assets that are in this particular property, including properties in Balito and Durban, and as well as Cape Town. So this forms part, really, of the SIU's investigations. The outcomes of that investigation are what essentially, the SIU is doing this particular afternoon.
Linda, I mean, you can see the people there have some experience with moving Lamborghinis, clearly the people you call in this instance. The Tembisa Hospital, as we know, the most astonishing scandal, 2 billion rand taken, 3 separate syndicates, according to the SIU's interim report that was released last week. And still, all of this linked to what Babeta Deokaran uncovered and was then killed for. And in fact, her family saying this morning, or overnight, I understand, they don't want that hospital renamed in her honour unless it actually becomes a beacon of hope for patients where there'll be no corruption. There's a very important backstory to all of this.
Absolutely, Stephen. And you'd also recall that there's been a long wait for justice in the matter of Babita Deokaran. And this particular investigation is an investigation that the SIU said, was also part of some of the referrals that came from the Premier's office, which were made in September 2022. The Premier also making referrals of some of the matters that needed to be investigated. So the SIU last week revealing that there was about 2 billion rand that was plundered. These are fees, Stephen, that were meant to assist the most vulnerable of society that were plundered through a number of irregular contracts. And of course, as a result of that investigation that the SIU had conducted, they'd now come down to this particular moment where they are seizing properties to, of course, try to recover those funds. So there's been quite a lot of work that has gone into this investigation, because the Maumela syndicate is not the only syndicate that the SIU discovered. Quite a number of others as well, which the SIU detailed in its report last week, indicating, of course, the plundering and the siphoning of state resources and state funds to, of course, fund these luxurious lifestyles. So today, the SIU descending upon Hangwani Maumela, who is named as one of the people that are in charge of a syndicate, really, that siphoned over 820, at least nearly 820 million rands of the funds at Tembisa Hospital. So at the moment, what you're seeing is, of course, the preparations to, of course, take these vehicles away. There's also been quite a number of people that are inside, Stephen, that are still doing a bit of work. So at the moment, what the SIU has already said this morning, confirming that this operation is part of implementing the outcomes of that investigation that they conducted into the plundering of resources and funds at the Tembisa Hospital. They are also saying that they'll be communicating further, in relation to the legal processes, and once those have been finalized, they will, of course, be making further pronouncements in relation to what it is exactly that will be done going forward. So at this point, this is an operation that is currently underway that really is part of the outcomes of that investigation. So not really revealing much in terms of what is the next step when it comes to these processes and what will follow. And you'd know that this was an unannounced operation, tip-offs being given to members of the media who then, descended upon this particular place. So it remains to be seen really what the next step for the SIU is as they continue with this particular operation, Stephen.
Linda, Mnisi, thank you very much indeed. Reporting from Sandhurst, as you can see there, those cars, of course, being loaded up. They belong to one of the people implicated by the SIU in that corruption that we've seen happening at Tembisa Hospital.